Thank you for joining us, Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. So, what are you going to do before you die? What would you say to that if a stranger came up to you and asked you a much more thought provoking question other than, who do you work for or what do you do for a living? What would you do if you had a simple and thoughtful idea like that go viral? Kalina Silverman is the founder of Big Talk, a Fulbright Scholar, and the creator of an award-winning viral video and global social impact project that helps people connect through more meaningful conversations. And on this episode, we'll discuss making Big Talk, TED Talks, networking, and even country music superstar Keith Urban's point of view on all of this. So let's tune in to a meaningful conversationalist with a big talking shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Kalina, thank you so much for joining us on A Shark's Perspective today. Please tell us a little bit about your journey and your story thus far.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I live in Santa Monica, California, and recently I returned from Singapore, where I was working as a Fulbright research scholar studying how to build empathy across cultures through a means called Big Talk.
So I saw the Big Talk somewhere on social channels. I remember first seeing the video somewhere. I know when the video went viral with the "Before I Die, I Want to" video. And then a few months ago, I saw you speak at a conference, and I was just really pleasantly surprised to, connect those dots and hear your story in person and how much this has exploded for you, especially with the playing cards, with the Big Talk game cards, because I don't know many people that have a card game that they've invented that's actually been published. But you even got the Country Music Awards Entertainer of the Year, Keith Urban, holding up the Big Talk card game. You've been cited in USA Today and Huffington Post and others. But Kalina, please describe to us and to a lot of people that may not know what the Big Talk is all about.
Yeah, so Big Talk actually started off as a personal project while I was at Northwestern studying broadcast journalism. I went out with my video camera in LA, and I just walked up to strangers and skipped the small talk with them to ask them the deeper question, what do you want to do before you die? And the responses were really touching and surprising, and some people shared their deepest, most moving life stories with me. And I filmed these responses and posted them to a YouTube video. And the video actually ended up going viral, and the Huffington Post and USA Today wrote about it. And I started getting invited to give talks about Big Talk. And that's when I gave a TEDx talk about it. And people started asking me, how do you actually make Big Talk?
Yeah.
And that's when it led to the card game and different people using it across the world.
So when you first went up to all these people, I mean, I know you edited in the ones that were generally, good at giving you conversation, but sort of what was your reaction to people asking people what they would do before they die? I'm sure you had plenty of no's and thank yous. What was sort of the general response, response rate out of people? Were they generally more likely? I mean, you're not a big ogresome looking person, so you were very sweet and I'm sure and pleasant when you came up and asked them. But how did people generally react to you requesting them to ask that kind of question?
People were definitely taken off guard at first, but that's kind of the point of Big Talk.
Well, it's not like one of those people that does surveys at the mall. It's
right.
This is so much of a deeper survey question.
Right. I made sure they knew I wasn't that kind of person when I first walked
right.
up to them. But in general, I would say the fact that Big Talk catches people off guard is what makes it so compelling when people actually do respond, because they're responding from the heart. It's not something that's canned or that they have prepared or that they can put on a front to respond to, like you might when speaking in professional environments or when you have your guard up.
So Big Talk is about, having those bigger conversations. What other kind of questions have you used over time to have those kind of conversations other than, before you die, what do you want to do? I mean, what are the other types of concepts that you sort of start those deeper conversations with?
Yeah, I really love to ask people the question, what's something you want to be doing that you're not doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think so many people have dreams and hobbies and aspirations that they could be doing right now, but for some reason that's usually just a mental block, they're not doing it. So it's nice to really go through that with people. Or I like to ask, what's your next great adventure? What are you looking forward to? That really sheds a lot of light on what people are excited about and passionate about. And it gives something positive to look forward to as well.
Sure. Well, another part of your story's amplification, if you will, is from that TED Talk about Big Talk, or as I like to call it, the Big TED Talk. But tell us how that experience occurred, how that helped propel, sort of your own journey and where you are right now. TED Talk obviously is somewhere where a lot of people want to get, but that obviously helped to amplify your audience quite a bit.
Oh yeah, the TED Talk really helped make Big Talk go global. I think today it has over 5 million views, and because of that, I've received messages from people all over the world who have asked me how can they make Big Talk in their own specific cultural environment. Um, and a lot of these responses from people, despite them being from very different places, are quite similar.
Hmm.
And that's how I was inspired to do the project about using Big Talk to build cross-cultural empathy and how you can use it in very different environments, no matter where you are.
That's a very good point about how they're similar. But when you see the languages, are people generally sort of asking the same questions, just with a different syntax and a different, language, be it Spanish, French, Japanese, whatever? Is it always sort of the similar type questions?
It is, but I think one of the components of asking Big Talk questions I'm very careful about is that it's really simple. I don't use really
Sure.
big words. I use words that can be translated across cultures. Um, but there are definitely differences and nuances. If you're talking to, for example, for example, based on something I've had experience with, a Bangladeshi migrant worker, they won't be able to respond to a question like, what gives you hope? Because it's a bit too
Wow.
hypothetical for
Right.
them, but more so, what do you hope for?
Very good point. Then how do we scale Big Talk beyond videos? And I know that's how we get people to connect through social media, new different forms of media, but you can only go to so many people in a park setting or to the beach and ask them these kind of questions. And obviously, we need bigger forms of media to propel that. How do you? What are the kind of things that you're seeing that are helping people truly connect?
Yeah, I've seen ways people have used Big Talk in social settings, business, education. For example, Big Talk cards have been placed at tables at business networking conferences,
Hmm.
so people can stop just asking, "Oh, what's your job? What's your position?" but actually really get to know each other because those conferences can get so repetitive.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, there's been Big Talk educational programs. For example, even a prison launched this Big Talk program to help people in jail really reconnect with their purpose before being released and be able to self-reflect more. People have used Big Talk at dinners, like social gatherings, dinners with strangers, or meetups, or while traveling. So there's so many different ways to make Big Talk beyond just me walking up to people with a video camera in Santa Monica.
Well, and I thought it was brilliant when I saw it at the conference that you're kind of alluding to, and I get approached. Obviously, I have from different business development and salespeople over the year, and it was sort of interesting being at a table and networking with people who were trying to sell you something, but then they were really challenged with trying to connect with you, and that's the same as any brand tries to go through with any customers trying to connect. And I thought it was a brilliant icebreaker at a conference as opposed to who do you work for, what are you selling, all that kind of good stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. One of the challenges with social though is also how much privacy you give up. The internet trolls are out there everywhere. They love to vent about everything, and how much it can consume your social interaction until people put the phone down. But when you look at social media, as a young millennial, what are your personal views on social media and how it's impacted you in your own life, not just as a Big Talk brand, but also as just Kalina Silverman?
Yeah, I think social media is a really tricky topic because people often like to scapegoat it
Yeah.
or say, oh, this is why young adults are so self-absorbed or depressed today or this or that. But I think every generation has a bit of that. And no matter what, everything is how much you use it. It's all about balance. And I think social media is really easy to get addicted to. And yeah, me as Kalina Silverman and not just Big Talk, I've also found myself mindlessly scrolling through Instagram or Facebook late at night. But I don't think it's the most productive thing for me. But those are things you just kind of have to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Sure.
And I think in general, people are getting pretty fatigued by social media. Like, I've seen my friends use it less and less, even just in the past few months. So I think things are shifting. And I don't really know what's next.
Well, you're supposed to. Before you came on the show, you were supposed to tell us what's next. You were,
The future
yeah,
of
you're,
social media.
yeah. Well, and you think about going through just a social media feed. You could see questions like or asked in Big Talk, but some of the packaging really with it, especially the game cards, it's just
Hmm.
simple to the point to where it makes you think. It's just not mindlessly in a feed. But what kind of tools do you recommend that helps people skip small talk and engage in more meaningful conversations right away? I mean, how do we cut through that kind of clutter?
Yeah. For starters, that is why I made the card game because it is so simple and it's small. It becomes less intimidating to make big talk when it's packaged in a cute little set of cards
Right.
that are so simple to hand out or read or keep in your pocket. So that's the main tool. I also worked on a little how to make big talk guide that I used at a conference for Adobe Women a couple months ago, and we might actually publish that as a product. People have made their own big talk materials too. You don't need to buy the cards. You can also make your own and put them out at a dinner. But for everyone, they find what works for them. And it's exciting to see what people will send me about how they made Big Talk work for them. But a lot of people have said the cards really helped.
Absolutely, and this is not an attempt to help you, as sell games. This is more of
Mm.
to try to help people connect, which is why you did this, and it's still a
Yeah.
brilliant experiment, regardless if you have the game cards or not. You can make up your own. So how does Big Talk harness the power of sharing stories about those experiences and help get these different types of cultures talking to each other, different types of people engaging in real conversation?
Yeah. I think that's the coolest part about Big Talk is that you can ask a question and anyone could answer it. Every question's designed to be universal and open-ended. It'll elicit a story from someone. So it doesn't matter if you're um, a business guy sitting on a bench in Rodeo Drive or a homeless man sitting on the beach. You can both answer the question, what do you want to do before you die? And that was just in LA. But you could ask anyone in the world that question and they'd be
Agreed.
able to answer it. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what they look like or what their political views are. They're going to have an answer to that question.
Yeah, that was something I thought of as I watched it, probably the second or third time. If you had taken away the beaches and the palm trees, which is
Yeah.
just a horrible curse because you live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. But if you take that away, you could have applied that to pretty much anywhere. You had a good cross group section of people, different races, genders, ages. I mean, it
Yeah.
was it was it was great to see that. You just had too many pretty beaches and palm trees behind you. So
It's a nice setting for filming, but
yeah.
yeah, you can ask these questions anywhere. In a coal mine or yeah, anywhere.
Well, and I noticed quite a few different things that were cited, and I asked myself those same questions, but it it
Yeah.
sort of makes you think before you're going to die. Most of them revolved, at least to me, maybe a majority of them revolved around being with family or the ones that are closest to you. And why do you think that, or do you agree that that's true? And why do you think that sometimes people lose sight of that, if you will, and need something as simple as a blunt question asked by a sweet polite girl with a camera to kind of really bring them back to having bigger conversations?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because most often a big talk question will lead to a response about family
Yeah,
and relationships. And people don't always take care of that. I think because it's challenging. Humans are really tricky, especially when the people you're closest to, that's when relationships get the most complicated. And sometimes when things are hard or complicated, you just want to neglect it and throw yourself into something less personal, like work. And that's why sometimes people will have responses that say, I work too much. I should spend more time with my family.
hmm
Um, Even just asking that question and hearing the responses really helped me um, focus on family and put that first before everything else while working on Big Talk and anything else I was doing at the time. It's always been my first priority.
Yeah, and I said family, but I think I meant, like you said, the people that you're closest to. Because one of the ladies mentioned having her dog with her, and that's, in her way, that's her
Yeah.
family. But I was going to ask you to kind of go into a little more detail about how Big Talk had not only changed, your outlook on your career thus far, because obviously that's something quite impressive on your own resume that a lot of people, at your age, going through these kind of experience, there are other people that graduated from Northwestern. That's a
Hmm.
great school. And again, very impressive that you had a Fulbright scholarship. But on top of that, you've developed something that's gone viral, that's really changing lives. How have you started to see that impact your own career outlook? And also, how has that really impacted your life with your own family and the people that you're closest to in life?
Yeah. I feel like Big Talk has been my ticket and passport to every part of the world, and it's been so cool. I've been able to, enter all sorts of environments from physical places like going to Singapore for Fulbright or recently Kazakhstan, or, enter a business establishment and run a networking event or a school or a nonprofit. So Big Talk has really been just an awesome tool, basically, to help me see into different worlds and work with them and help them and also learn from them. And then that has helped me personally too. I definitely don't walk around talking big talk with everyone in my life. I do a lot of small talk. I do a lot of silly millennial things. I like to go out with my friends, go dancing, and do whatever. Um, but it has really helped me feel that each relationship that I cultivate or have in my life is genuine and real. And I know people really well, that people I'm close with. Sometimes my friends are like, "How do you know all these stories and different things about people?" But Big Talk has definitely helped with that. It's just become a more natural way of communicating to me. Not that it's the only way to communicate, but it's easier for me to take any conversation and turn it into Big Talk if it needs to go in that direction.
Do you know how high you set the bar, though, for every person that you date who wants to ask you a question? And then you can really kind of lay into them that that's not big talk and they just want to talk small talk. So,
Well, I'm actually dating someone, and he's really good at small talk, so I think that helps. It's a good
good.
balance.
Let you be good at big talk. He can be good at small talk, and maybe you guys have a
Yeah.
baby that does medium talk.
Yeah.
So, Kalina, before you die, what do you want to do? Because I haven't seen you answer that yet. What's going to be the most meaningful thing in the world for you to do?
Um, Before I die, there's two things or three things I really want to do. The first one is raise a family, and the second one is I've always had this idea to open a sort of ranch that I've called World Ranch in my mind, but I'm sure there'll be another name down the road that employs people fleeing conflict zones to live and work on the ranch, and then it also hosts a lot of fun educational and cultural events, and people can stay there. And I don't know where in the world it'll be yet. And then the third thing is to play and compose music.
That so much trumps my mine. So
What's your answer?
no, mine of course, is spend more time with family, make sure my own family, is taken care of like anybody. So
Hmm.
be,
Yeah.
live a good life and not worry too much about a job that doesn't mean anything in the bigger, I work in marketing, but does marketing matter compared to the people that matter to me most? No, not at all.
Mm.
So I think it's a concept that it's great to see anybody your age or any age learn. So Kalina, it's now time, the most important part of the show, for me to ask my big talk questions. Are you ready for the 5 most important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Yes, I'm excited to hear them.
Yeah, so there's your warning. So, TED Talk or Big Talk?
Big talk.
YouTube or Vimeo?
Ooh, I'll say YouTube because that's how Big Talk got started.
There you go. Travel the world or play piano?
Can I say play piano while traveling the world?
There you go. Oh, I know there are two good passions. So the beaches of Santa Monica or any other beaches in the world that you've traveled?
Mm. I really loved this past year learning how to surf in Bali. That holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to learn to surf. And the most important question that you're going to be asked today, in drum roll for this big talk question, is biscuits or cornbread?
Oh my gosh.
See, I knew this would throw you back more than before you die. What are you going to do?
Well, I haven't had cornbread in so long, and I love cornbread, so I'm going to say cornbread.
I'm going to go with that. Cornbread's not a bad answer. So, Kalina, then where do people find out more about you, connect with you, follow you, find out more about Big Talk?
Yeah. So personally, my personal website is just www.kalinasilverman.com, and same with my Instagram and Twitter handles are just at Kalina Silverman. And then Big Talk is www.makebigtalk.com, and the Instagram handle is at makebigtalk. And if you just YouTube search Big Talk, you'll find the videos and the TED Talk and all that.
Kalina, thank you so much for joining us on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
So there was my conversation with Kalina Silverman, the founder of Big Talk, a Fulbright Scholar, and the creator of an award-winning viral video and global social impact project that helps people connect through more meaningful conversations. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from our conversation with her. First, so how do you make Big Talk? How do you ask thought-provoking questions, whether it's with people you network with or even customers? What do you want to do before you die? What are your dreams and hobbies and inspirations? What's your next great adventure? Obviously, there are the right ways in the right context to ask customers and colleagues these kind of questions, but at least consider creating thought-provoking questions and not mindless advertising babble. Second, you don't have to have the most complex words or ideas to make a big impact. Use words that are simple, that can be translated across cultures. She gave an example of where one Southeast Asian culture couldn't define what gives you hope because it was too hypothetical. She went on further, though, that she could ask, what do you hope for? You can't pivot on every cultural nuance. Just keep in mind if your topics are universal enough to appeal to different groups of people. Think global and act local. Third, she did a TED Talk that received over 5 million views worldwide with a project to build cross-cultural empathy wherever you are. And what does it ultimately come down to for most people? It comes down to family or the people that you care most about in the world. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. It's been my privilege to have a meaningful conversation with you in order to discuss one of the many components that makes up marketing today. And in the words of Keith Urban, there's nothing in the world that feels like the place that I know where they all know me. I got to get back now to the ones who love me, coming home. Come and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.